This is quite a unique chapter, isn't it? I think one would say it's one of the most strange chapters in our record of the kings. We have three kings at one stage going off to battle together, and yet they were really not suitable for each other. What an amazing picture it is. And it makes you think, when these stories were chosen, what were all the things that were in between Elisha coming to office, 2 Kings 2, we've got two little brackets there, about in the last part of chapter 19, and about the young men in verse 23, or young boys, I should say, larrikins really, and what they tried to do in mocking the new appointment. And in this chapter we have something which is totally different. There's no other chapter in the Bible like 2 Kings chapter 3. And I've often read it and thought, goodness me, I wonder what it's really saying. Why is it there? What an odd bit of history to give account to. Why is it there? So perhaps we can discern something from it this afternoon. We've got a good opportunity. I'd love to hear some comments though, because I don't think everything's that easy to comprehend. So chapter 3 and verse 1 says, Now Jehoram, the son of Ahab, began to reign over Israel in Samaria the 18th year of Jehoshaphat, king of Judah, and reigned 12 years. Now let's put ourselves in the picture. Jehoshaphat is a very great king in Judah's history. He was one of the four kings that are best known, I suppose, in the history of Judah. And the person that is mentioned going with him is Jehoram in the same verse, and he's described as the son of Ahab, which means that he's Jezebel's son. So that's something not to be taken too lightly. And the two of them are getting together. Jehoram, the son of Ahab, began to reign over Israel in Samaria the 18th year of Jehoshaphat, king of Judah, and reigned 12 years. Jehoshaphat reigned a much longer period of time than that, but nevertheless he's been in the job, as it were, for 18 years. Now all of us will remember that Jehoshaphat made a terrible mistake earlier in life when he tried to marry his son to the daughter of the royal family of Israel. And the whole thing blew up in his face. Jehoshaphat tried to do a deal with Ahab, and it was a terrible disgrace. And the king came home very ashamed, very humbled by the circumstances. But Jehoshaphat is a great man as well. It was a bad mistake, but he was a great man. And it goes on to tell us in that record that how he really set about, when he got back, to build up the understanding of Israel, particularly, and how he increased the robustness of Judah against its adversaries. He was a good man of God and a faithful man, but sometimes he was fooled. And this is an occasion of almost the same that he did with Ahab. It's Ahab's son. Jehoram in verse 1 is Ahab's son, and we've got the same Jehoshaphat. And the same weakness seems to be there. I suppose it was natural in a sense, wasn't it? If you were in one kingdom, the other person was king of the northern, you'd think yourself, well, we don't seem to be having too many arguments lately. I would think that we could, make a marriage of this. That might help the two kingdoms to come together. And that's how it sort of was persuaded upon Jehoshaphat. And they were brothers in a sense, because they both came from the same line and lineage of Abraham, Isaac and Jacob. And it was always a tragedy that there was king of the north and there was the king of the south in the people of Israel. So Jehoshaphat made a very tragic mistake in what he did. He came home very humiliated by that. Now we have the next generation. And the words of Jehoram, the words of Jehoshaphat, are almost identical to what he said some years before when he was addressing Ahab. And Ahab wanted to sell off his daughter to Jehoram for his son. So it says, concerning Jehoram, that's the king of Israel in the north, he wrought evil in the sight of Yahweh, but not like his father. His father was Ahab. More to the point, his mother was Jezebel. That's enough to frighten any potential father-in-law, isn't it? Surely. He wrought evil in the sight of Yahweh, but not like his father and like his mother. Oh, there she is. She's not forgotten. She's right in the background of everything that ever happened in that period of time. For he put away the image of Baal that his father had made. Just to put that in its context. They had the calves, didn't they, in 1 Kings chapter 13. And that was because of Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, who made Israel to sin. So they had one up the north and they had one here in Bethel. But after that, when Ahab came on the scene, he married Jezebel, and Jezebel gave him another religion again, and that was the worship of Baal. And whereas what Jeroboam did was evil enough in that it was idolatry, when it came to the worship of Baal, it was just straight out evil. The whole thing was based upon the misuse of man and woman. And liberty and license just went in the whole package. It was absolutely disaster for all the northern people. So, looking at that verse 2, it's telling us that this Jehoram, he didn't go along with Baal worship. He put away the image of Baal that his father had made, which was a good thing, very good thing. And when it happened in 1 Kings chapter 23, verse 52, it says that Jezebel was specifically involved in that. He put away the image of Baal. But he didn't touch the golden calves that through Jeroboam had made Israel to sin. So verse 3 says, nevertheless he cleaved unto the sins of Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, which made Israel to sin. He departed not therefrom. So he got halfway in cleaning up idolatry, but he didn't finish it off. And a political question arose to the king of Israel through the king of Moab, who was off on the east of the Jordan. The king's name was Mesha, and Mesha, king of Moab, was a sheep master, and rendered unto the king of Israel 100,000 lambs and 100,000 rams with the wool. That's a lot of meat, and it's a lot of wool. Even in Australia, where we have a lot of sheep, that's still a large quantity for anybody to have, and much more to be sort of giving it as a contribution to another country. He was under tribute to the northern kingdom. And I would say a lot of the children in the north had little cardigans that were made from Moabite wool. And no doubt they had many a lovely lamb's meal for their evening meals that was provided from northern Israel. So there was a happy relationship. Moab was under the control of the northern kingdom and was paying this tithe, if you like, this condition of the arrangement was that he provided this as an annual contribution to the northern part of Israel. But it came to pass, verse 5, when Ahab was dead, that the king of Moab rebelled against the king of Israel. So here's another case where the person who arises in the office of a well-known person in the past, situation looks to be an opportunity of advantage to the opposition. So Moab notes that Ahab's not around anymore, and he was the old-timer that sort of knew all the ruses and had considerable achievements. And he says, well, why are we giving all this stuff away to the northern kingdom? They wouldn't be able to handle us anyway. So he stopped the contribution. So all the northern Israelites went cold for a few months. And they didn't like it. He rebelled against the king of Israel. Then we're told in verse 6 that King Jehoram went out of Samaria at the same time and numbered all Israel. So he doesn't like this insult. I suppose as a younger man, he thinks he's got to show his ability and he's not going to be toyed around by Moab. So he gets to hear that Moab is rebelling and he's going to put them in their place. And it says, and he numbered all Israel. That is northern Israel. But he thinks, I could increase my army by using the king of southern Judah if he would join me. And he's a bit incompetent, a bit like to do that. That's the sort of thing he did with Dad. Jehoshaphat and my father Ahab, they made an agreement. There was a marriage between the two and their children. So he thinks it's worth it, I think, to see if Jehoshaphat, the king of Judah, verse 7, might join us. He might have some resentment against Moab anyway. So he says, the king of Moab hath rebelled against me. Wilt thou go with me against Moab to battle? And Jehoshaphat falls quite tragically, really, isn't it? And he said, I will go up. I am as thou art, my people as thy people. If you look that up in the other record of where he went with Ahab, you'll see that that's virtually the same words as he expressed some years before. It was obviously a trait in Jehoshaphat's mind that he couldn't quite see that picture from time to time. Here's the second occasion of calamity. I am as thou art, my people as thy people. And you'll see in your margin a quotation that shows the other occasion earlier. And it's not just a little comment of, yes, I'll be happy to go, you know. It was more than that. I am as thou art. My people as thy people. My horses as thy horses. What's Moab got to do with Judah? They're not having a row with Judah. They haven't picked on Judah for anything. Why did Jehoshaphat think he had to get involved in that? You might understand when it was sort of a marriage between their children. Well, they might have sounded a pretty happy idea, you know, for the young children. Kings with sons marry kings with daughters. It sounds a pretty grand idea. But whatever has Judah got to do with Moab? And if the northern kingdom has got a few less cardigans than they normally would have, well, what's that to Judah? Does Judah need to get involved in that? It's hardly an international issue, is it? But they did. Verse 8, and he said, which way shall we go up? Who's leading the force? It's not the king of Jehoshaphat of Israel, is it? It's the king of Israel, Jehoram. He's the one that's in prime control. And Jehoshaphat asks, which way shall we go up? And he answered, would you believe, the way through the wilderness of Edom. Now, if you think about that on the map, you've got Edom right down at the south of the Dead Sea, and on the eastern side, it's in that bulge down there. And what the king of Israel is saying to the king of Judah, the way we'll go is that way. And we'll come through Edom. Edom was a brother nation to Israel, and I suppose he thought, you know, we could track through that way. That'd be the best way. And they might not expect that we're coming that way, because to me, anyway, it seems the odd way to go. But that's what he had in mind to do. And so, verse 9, so the king of Israel went, and the king of Judah, and the king of Edom. He wasn't mentioned before now, was he? So there must have been a little morning tea or something, and the king of Edom, he has a chat with these other two kings, and they get on pretty well together. And where are you off to? You're off to Moab. Oh, Moab, yeah, they do get on our nerves a bit. Well, why don't you come with us? We're going through your territory. Yes, you can pass through our territory. Yeah, why don't you come with us? Next thing we find that there's three kings, not just the king of Judah and the king of Israel, but the king of Edom is involved as well. Interesting story, isn't it? Amazingly, why is this in the story of the life of Elisha? Whatever's that got to do with Elisha, and it follows these other little incidents we have, which are so different. Look at the previous 3 verses, all about those boys and so on. The spring of waters before that. Now we're out on a big track of invasion. The 3 kings are getting their soldiers ready, their food and equipment, and all the weapons and so on. And they're going to trot right down around the Dead Sea and come up through that way to Moab, which is still on Edom's side, but above Edom. So the king of Israel went, verse 9, and the king of Judah and the king of Edom. Well, he's just joined the party. No explanation, he's just joined the party. I suppose it was a favourable arrangement to get through the wilderness. And they fetched a compass of 7 days' journey. And there was no water for the host. You know, they're all carried away what they're doing, but they haven't really thought about the difficulties of that. 3 armies passing through an area which is very dry at the best of times. Edom is a very dry place. The south of the Dead Sea is an exceptionally barren place. So there's no water for the host. And the cattle that followed them. You didn't bring a whole lot of trailers and trucks and so forth in those days. You had to take the cattle with you. And when you got to the places that you stopped at, then you would kill a certain number every day of the operation, and that would provide some food for your armies. And the king of Israel, that's Jehoram, Ahab's son, said, alas, that Yahweh, the God of Judah and Israel, had called these three kings together to deliver them into the hand of Moab. Oh, what a cheat is that? What a cheat. The king of Israel said that. And now he's blaming God for the predicament they're in. He didn't have to be involved at all. Kitty might not have had a few cardigans for a month or 2 of the winter, but is that a cause for war? Now the king of Israel is having a gripe about it. He was the one that really decided to get involved in the battle. And that's a very ugly expression in verse 10. I emphasise it because you'll see that that's his mind. He's got no thought about the presence of Yahweh, the God of Israel. He says, Yahweh had called, it was their mistake. It wasn't God's mistake at all. Now he wants to blame God for the folly that they find themselves in. Well, what does Jehoshaphat do? What are you going to say to that? When this man comes up and says a thing like that, and you sort of got in friendship with him and so on, and now he's saying that your God that you actually, Jehoshaphat, actually love and admire and wish to serve, and that he had organised special brethren and Levites to teach the people. He'd increased the teaching of the truth in Judah. And this comrade here, he's now saying we blame God for the whole thing. Jehoshaphat would have been better than that. He knew darn well it was nothing to do with the fault of God. It was Jehoshaphat that made that decision to go with the king. He didn't need to do it at all. If the northern king didn't need to do it, well, Judah, how much less again? We got involved because of our own circumstance. I'm sure Jehoshaphat would have thought exactly that. But he's in company in a critical time, and he looks back here and all the troops have got their tongues out. They're starving, hungry, you can't find anything to drink, and they're in an area where you're going to perish if you don't get a ready supply of food and water. And this comrade now blames God. How would you feel? I bet Jehoshaphat was thinking to himself, oh, how did I get involved in this again? I learned a lesson, and now I'm learning it again. But Jehoshaphat said, is there not here a prophet of Yahweh, that we may inquire of Yahweh by him? Jehoshaphat's still a God-fearing man at heart, isn't he? He knows that they've made a mistake. But he doesn't say, look, let's get pen and paper out and let's work out a trick. We've got to get out of this somehow. He didn't do that. He said, look, the only solution to this is the God we serve. Is there not a prophet of Yahweh here? Well, where are you going to find a prophet of Yahweh down there? It's just not going to be true, is it? What, way down the south, on your way through Edom? But my dear brothers and sisters, the wonder of the story is that Elisha was down there, somewhere. Because it then says, and one of the king of Israel's servants answered and said, here is Elisha, the son of Shaphat. We haven't met Elisha in this chapter until that point. Here is Elisha. How did he know that? Was Elisha tracking them? Was he having a holiday down that way? Was he doing a bit of his own work in that southern area? It wasn't his area anyway. He was up in the northern kingdom. Jericho, Gilgal, Bethel, and so on. How is it that Elisha is down in that area and that man in the cabinet of the northern kingdom, he knew about it. He knew he was there. More than that, that cabinet minister of the king of Israel, of Jehoram, he knew about Elisha. So at this stage, Elisha has done things which were internationally known. We know, of course, that happened with Elijah as well. And that's going to happen more in Elisha's life. But isn't that intriguing, my dear brothers and sisters? When you sort the story out, you find that that's incredibly remarkable. He's never down that way. Neither was Elijah, except when he went down to Mount Sinai. And that wasn't a very valuable experience. But here he is, the man for the moment, and lo and behold, he's just down the road. Here is Elisha, the son of Shaphat. Knows who he is? Who poured water on the hands of Elijah. What's that say? They knew more about Elijah than they did about Elisha. But this Elisha has been put in place by Elijah, and we all know what he did. He got a hold of our worship, Jezebel's worship, and he destroyed it on the top of Mount Carmel. And the whole of the Middle East knew about that, without a shadow of a doubt. This man knew. He was in the cabinet probably at that time too. And that's the person to go. Here is Elisha. It's an amazing story. The son of Shaphat, which poured water on the hands of Elijah, which was just an expression of saying that he cared for his cleanings and washings and other entitlements as the king. He knows the whole picture, doesn't he? Knows what he does normally. Knew he was in the vicinity. Now what's Jehoshaphat going to do with that? He's got this poor king of Israel, Jehoram, and he's wanting to blame God. And Jehoshaphat says, look, we shouldn't be blaming God for this. We should be inquiring of Yahweh concerning this. And then out of the chief ministers of the Israel people, this one pops up and says, Elijah's just down here. You mentioned it? Well, he's just down the road. So the king of Israel, this is a really interesting picture. Underline this with a bit of an emphasis because really it is priceless. Jehoshaphat said, verse 12, the word of Yahweh is with him. Says Jehoshaphat. I like that, don't you? He's in a mess. He knows he's in a mess. He can't abide with the advice of the Israelite king. No way. And when he gets opportunity, he speaks up for God. The word of Yahweh is with him, says Jehoshaphat in verse 12. Isn't that beautiful? He does say the right thing even when he's caught out. So, the outcome of that is they've all agreed to go and see Elisha. They're on the way to a battle with 3 armies out there trying to keep an existence going. And here these 3 are trotting off to the door of none less than Elisha, the prophet of Israel. And so it says, the king of Israel and Jehoshaphat and the king of Edom went down to him. Now, do you think that's a very good union of forces? It's highly divided, isn't it? You've got a man who's an idolater. You've got a man that's broken his will that he should have recognised. And lo and behold, you've got Edom in the picture as well. Edom that was forever against Israel. Brother Esau, as it were, was in fact an inveterate foe of both houses of Israel. And here they are, arm in arm, going to the door of Elisha. Do you think that's a unique chapter? Isn't that an incredible story? It really is, isn't it? But highly interesting. What's Elisha going to do with it? Elisha said unto the king of Israel, that's who he addressed, he was the first boss, what have I to do with thee? He was a muddled-minded, semi-idolatrous, weak-kneed person, but shrewd. Get thee to the prophets of thy father. And he doesn't forget the worst. And to the prophets of thy mother. And who was she? Jezebel. That's what Elisha said. No sparing at all. None whatever. He was not going to cooperate with a child that was driven by the thoughts of Ahab's son and his wife, Jezebel's daughter. He will not do a deal with them. And the king of Israel said, how do you like this? Talk about impudence. The king of Israel said unto him, nay, this is God that's done this. He repeats what he said in verse 10. He hasn't heard a thing. There's not an ounce of humility about the man. He's in an absolute mess. He repeats the offence of verse 10. Exactly the same words. The king of Israel said unto him, nay, for Yahweh hath called 3 kings together to deliver them into the hand of Moab. He's deliberately done that. Your God has deliberately done this. He's the one that's responsible for this. Don't worry about Elisha. Ooh, can you imagine how Elisha would be feeling by this? He'd had enough of him. Impudent fellow. And what are you doing, Jehoshaphat, mixed up with this fellow? He would have been seething with anger to hear this man repeat his accusations, just like an idolatrous, atheistic man. These 3 kings are copying it because of Yahweh. Perhaps there was some truth in it. But it wasn't God that told them to do it. They brought it upon themselves. And then verse 14, you've got more words of Elisha. And Elisha said, as Yahweh of hosts liveth. There's the title for our talk. As Yahweh of hosts liveth, before whom I stand. Surely, were it not that I regard the presence of Jehoshaphat, the king of Judah, the one decent character, and all three of you, I would not look toward thee nor see thee. I don't regard you, idolater, and I don't regard you, Edom, idolater. And much as saying, Jehoshaphat, what are you doing here? Verse 15, but now bring me a minstrel. A minstrel? I would have thought sort of sword or something like this. To be involved in battle. Bring me a minstrel. And you might remember that the schools of the prophets were known for their music. In the 1st of Samuel chapter 10, that's how it was when Saul first became aware of Samuel. There was the children that were coming down playing on the instruments, and within the school of the prophets there had been a musical aspect to their work. And that's no doubt partly what inspired David to become involved in music. He could see the power of it. The minstrel, it's just a little instrument you blow upon. Very simple. How's that going to win a battle? Not by its own tune, its own physical. So it's just a very simple instrument. Here's all these men. I don't know how many 100,000 men were out there waiting on the result of this, but he says, bring me a minstrel. It's what he learnt in the company of the prophets. He knew its power. He knew that it had brought the response of God in the company of the prophets. It was part and parcel of their way of life. They loved the hymns. They loved to sing together. Do we all still love to sing together and put our hearts behind it? Do our children come from time to time, when there's a bit of spare time, gather around the piano and sing some good hymns together? I can remember at Manitoulin Island very clearly. And I can see the player with his instrument to this day. And there was a group, so you didn't have to tell them to come. They were just down by that little elevation down the road there a bit. And people just gathered around because we love to sing. We love to sing the praises of God. It was part and parcel of our worship. I think it's where we should be. We should be happy to use that in our ecclesial work, that there's some real flow and power and voice, conviction about what we're doing. I just wonder if it's what it used to be. We don't have to borrow the tunes of the world. I just love to hear him home this morning. I was trying to concentrate on this, and some playing on the piano was going on. I thought, the piano tune, playing those hymns really made it very difficult to concentrate. I wasn't going to tell anybody after, but it did. Because it's a power on your mind, isn't it? You love it. And you think, well, I've got to concentrate on this, but the other one is just pleasant and lovely. Yeah, keep it up. And that's, I'm sure, how David saw it too. He wanted Israel to lift itself in their praises of God. Well, this little instrument comes into it. Came to pass when the minstrel played that the hand of Yahweh came upon him. As it was upon his predecessor, Elijah. The hand of Yahweh came upon him. The very term is used. Again, you'll see it in your margin. 1 Kings 18, verse 46. Exactly the same thing. What came upon Elijah is now coming upon his hand. The hand of Yahweh is upon him. And this is what he said. Thus saith Yahweh, make this valley full of ditches. For thus saith Yahweh, ye shall not see wind, neither shall ye see rain. Yet that valley shall be filled with water, that ye may drink, both ye and your cattle and your beasts. They're still alive. And this is but a light thing in the sight of Yahweh. He will deliver the Moabites also into your hand. Well, my dear brothers and sisters, what an incredible statement that was. Have you ever seen rain come without wind? Doesn't come without wind, does it? There's got to be a bringing of the clouds over the land, or you get no rain. Needs a river to go through the country, or you've got no source to fill up all of your receptacles for water. But he says, ye shall see no wind, neither shall ye see rain. He's saying this right down in those southern areas which is dry as you could ever imagine. Yet that valley shall be filled with water, that ye may drink, both ye and your cattle and your beasts, plenty of water, plenty of all that they needed. The cattle will fill up again and they'll be good for meals and so on. Ye shall smite every fenced city, verse 19. Didn't he say that Yahweh had brought these three kings together to deliver them into the hand of Moab? That's in verse 10, and straight across the column here is, and shall fell every good tree and stop all wells of water and mark every good piece of land with stones of Moab. Yahweh was going to bring them good, not evil. Even now, this corrupt approach that they've had from these three kings. And it happened. It came to pass in the morning, when the meat offering was offered, that behold, there came water by the way of Edom, and the country was filled with water, and no one knew where it came from. It's like when you sometimes wake up in the morning and it's been raining all night, but you were so sound asleep you didn't hear it. You wake up in the morning and the whole place is wet, thoroughly wet. Where did all that come from? Well, it came because the wind came and brought the clouds, and lightning did the rest and so on. But they hadn't heard a thing. Completely unaware of any rain coming into the area. What do you think Jehoshaphat thought, my dear brothers and sisters? I'm sure he went down on his knees. That God was redeeming him from such an improper situation that he found himself in. And the cattle were out there mooing them like with great delight. Their lives were there. I wonder about that king of Israel, what he was muttering to himself at that time. Did he change his mind about the God of Israel? Was it the God of Israel that put these three kings together? Never! The God of Israel would have divided them like Elisha would. It's improper, he said, what you're doing. Totally improper. You're an idolater and he's a worshipper of the living God. What are you coming down to me like that for? That's how Elisha felt. But instead of that, they've got this beautiful amount of water that's come, well, obviously not from the skies, it's come because God has brought it forth from the earth itself. An absolute miracle. Elisha was a great man, wasn't he? A truly great man, associated with very great things. If this happened in today, it would be in a headline for a week, wouldn't it? Here's a plane, not a drop of water came from the skies, and yet it's flooding with beautiful water. Just imagine if that happened in our experience. The whole world would be told of it. Well, this was happening in a wilderness expansion. When all the Moabites heard that the kings would come up to fight against them, they gathered all that were able to put on armour and upward and stood in the border. They said, all right, we'll meet the challenge. In verse 22, they rose up early in the morning and the sun shone upon the water, as it does. Sometimes you can see the sun's effects like that, and you'd be absolutely sure there was some fire out in the horizon somewhere. But it's just the way the light is shining on some particular surfaces, and water, of course, in particular. And they rose up early in the morning, and the sun shone upon the water. And the Moabites saw the water on the other side as red as blood. They knew it wasn't their blood because they hadn't been involved in the fight yet. Well, they said it must have been these three kings. Their hosts have turned on each other. Well, it says it right, they were all there in this mixed group. They've turned on each other. They never suited to come together, I suppose they thought. And so they saw the water on the other side as red as blood. And they said, this is blood The kings are surely slain, and they have smitten one another. They've turned on each other. Now therefore, Moab, to the spoil. Said they're going to go up to the hosts of these three kings, and they're going to take the lot. But when they came to the camp of Israel, verse 24, the Israelites rose up and smote the Moabites, so that they fled before them. But they went forward, smiting the Moabites even in their country. And they beat down the cities, and on every good piece of land cast every man his stone and filled it. They wrecked the good land that might have produced crops. And they just went berserk right through the area of Moab, which wouldn't be hard to do. They took every city that was in Moab, except for Kirjath Hareseth, as it says in verse 25. It's no wonder they couldn't quite manage that. Hareseth is a most remarkable mountain. It rises like a cone, just like that. At the top, you're 1,500 feet from the valley road that runs round the mountain. On this side, it goes off to the Dead Sea. And the slope is just like that. There's no way you could ever take Kirjath or Hareseth, that is here called. So that was left. But the rest, every other vestige of town in Moab was gone. And those three kings plundered it. You think the king of Israel is still talking a miserable tone? Still blaming God for what they got themselves into? And look at the redemption, but how did it come? My dear brothers and sisters, it came through Elisha. That single boy that buried his life and took on the work of educating and nurturing the faith of Israel. Well, Moab was absolutely destitute. It says in verse 26, the extreme statement, that the king of Moab saw that the battle was too sore for him. He took with him 700 men that drew swords to break through even unto the king of Edom. But they couldn't even deal with Edom now, let alone Israel and Judah. They couldn't even manage getting through Edom. And he was involved in the alliance anyway. So in utter desperation, verse 27, then took he, that's the king of Moab, took his eldest son that should have reigned in his stead, he was heir apparent, and offered him for a burnt offering upon the wall. Upon the wall, I suppose, so that everybody could see. The distress of the king was so great that he made a public demonstration of his grief in the thing that he would have loved more than anything else probably in life, and he offered him to Chemosh, because that's what they did. They worshipped Chemosh, and the giving of children to Chemosh was what they were famous for, and they did it again in their heir apparent. Who was the inciter of all that, who set that going? It was our prophet. Pretty amazing story, isn't it? Involved in very great things, strange and remarkable things that only happened when those prophets were there to do those things. It's something of what we shall see in the future. But there's great lessons in it too, isn't it? That in our walk through this present life, we have to remember that we're walking through very evil things. And what we can give up, we ought to give up. It's something in our home that's having a large play in our lives. Get rid of it. The kingdom's coming. The judgment will be then. And people will be in grief because of their sons, because of the destructions of Armageddon. But we know, my dear brothers and sisters, that it's coming. We haven't got Elisha, but we've got the advice of Elisha. And Elisha's advice was, you should live together. The world and us are two different things. This person got no idea, none whatever. Why are you involved in doing things with him? We're not parcel of outside clubs and other things that draw us away from concentrating on our ecclesial life. You know, our brotherhood is shrinking. Do you know that? I hate to say it, but in the developed countries, it's true. We are shrinking seriously. I read a letter from a recording brother, and he said it was sort of a response to another letter that was there, and the brother was saying, you know what's happening. In our ecclesia, he said, we've got difficulties because we've got the older ones, and they don't get on with the younger ones, and the younger ones don't get on with the older ones. And there was more than one that said the same thing. But this brother wrote, and he said, I'd love to have your problem. This is one of our recorders. I'd love to have your problem. We haven't got the younger ones. And we haven't got the ones in between. I suppose the children got involved in other things, and eventually that watered down the faith of the parents. We haven't got number 2 and number 3 categories. All we can do is, at our AB meeting, is talk about whether we'll be able to pay the rent next year. Be able to keep the whole in reasonable shape. No Sunday school. No young folks group. Nobody caring for the young, taking them on side, getting to know them, building their faith, increasing their scope and understanding of the truth and all it means. That's what's happening to us. We're too involved with other things. We bring things into our home that we know are not good and not good for our children. They'll sit in front of them for hours on end. And today you don't sit in front of things like that, except it has a very real effect on our minds. Yours and mine. Don't kid ourselves. We are entertained by those things, they will have their effect upon us. Our brotherhood is very precious. Absolutely precious. I can't tell you how much it means to us to come and see so many of like kind of faith. We've been doing this together for 30, 40 years, and I really love it. See you again cheers my heart. And I say to all of us, if we've only got a short time to go, let's put our foot forward. And let's look seriously at our life and the lives of our children and of our grandchildren. Not grandchildren so we can show them off to the neighbours. They're grandchildren because God wants the stamp of His understanding, His truth, the only thing that's worthwhile. He wants that in the minds of our children and of our grandchildren. And we know that. And we can help each other to that cause. Elisha did a great thing for Israel that day when he brought God into the picture. And we do a good thing when we bring into the simplicity of our homes the love of the truth, the love of the readings, the old things that Grandma and Grandpa and Mum and Dad always did. May we learn that lesson.